Hey, there goes the greatest hitter who ever lived. Ted Williams was 83.
President Bush praised Williams for his unique talent and love of country. Details of a memorial service for Williams have not yet been announced. The FBI says it is not ruling out anything in yesterday's shooting at Los Angeles International Airport. An Egyptian man opened fire at the El Al ticket counter, killing 2 people before being shot by an airline security guard. As Anita Vogel reports, the U.S. is not calling this an act of terrorism.
Those who saw him said he looked like a normal guy and that he was even nicely dressed. But authorities say 41-year-old Egyptian national Hisham Mohammed Hadayet was far from normal and that he came to the Los Angeles International Airport on a mission.
It appears that he went there for the intention of killing people.
Hadayet succeeded in killing 2 innocent bystanders and wounding 4 others. But the motive behind his actions is still unclear to the FBI. Today, their agents addressed the controversy over continuing claims by the Israeli government that this was an act of terrorism.
The Israeli government, when a violent act takes place on an entity of Israel or an individual of Israel, they presume terrorism first until proven otherwise. We cannot make such presumptions like that.
Hadayet was considered a resident legal alien and had lived in the U.S. for about 10 years, working as a limo driver. Authorities have searched his home and removed his computer and other files. But the FBI maintains they had not heard of this man before the 4th of July.
He has not been on any FBI or any FAA watch list.
Investigators halfway around the world questioned Hadayet's wife and family in Egypt. His family had only just traveled there in recent weeks. Meanwhile, here at LAX, operations have returned to normal with an extra layer of security. But many question how much security is enough to prevent someone from walking in the front door of an airport with a loaded gun. In Los Angeles, Anita Vogel, Fox News.
Airports across the country increased security after yesterday's shooting. Molly Hennenberg has more on what's being done to make airline ticket counters safer.
Transportation experts are evaluating, again, security at the nation's airports after Thursday's fatal shooting at the Los Angeles International Airport. Security improvements following the 9/11 attacks focused on the airplanes themselves and the passengers and baggage that get on them. But the issue now is ticket counters. Anyone can walk up to most of them without going through a security checkpoint. Los Angeles Mayor Jim Hahn questions the wisdom of that.
Right now, the perimeter of security is to prevent anybody from getting on that plane. Up till that point in time, people don't go through security screening. I think that we need to take a look at that.
But air safety experts say no matter how far back you move the security perimeter, the public will always be vulnerable.
We have to be sure that we're not jumping to conclusions, spending a lot of time, a lot of manpower, and quite frankly, multiplying the inconvenience.
While baggage and passenger screeners are scheduled to become federal employees by the end of the year, security at the ticketing areas will still be the responsibility of the airlines. And as long as ticket terminals remain open to the public, they also remain open to the same dangers of any public place in America.
We've seen it at McDonald's, we've seen it on the highways, we've seen it in banks, we've seen it at the U.S. Capitol a number of years ago. I think we have to be careful that we don't jump to conclusions that this is part of the terrorist battle that we're fighting.
In another part of that battle, a warning from the government to airline pilots, urging them to be very careful with their uniforms and identification badges. A spokesperson for the Transportation Department says it has received reports that some airline pilots' hotel rooms have been broken into and their uniforms and ID badges stolen. In Washington, Molly Henneberg, Fox News.
Federal authorities today issued a warning to small plane owners to tighten security, saying there is credible evidence that terrorists could turn to small planes to carry out attacks. Police say a man who led officers on a 100-mile-an-hour chase near San Francisco this morning may be mentally unstable. Police brought the vehicle to a stop by puncturing the tires with a spike strip. It then turned into a 4-hour standoff that shut down one of the 2 major southbound routes from San Francisco to San Jose. The ordeal came to a dramatic end when police sprayed the car with firefighting foam because they believed the driver had doused himself and the car with gasoline. The man was not hurt during the capture. Police say the chase started about 40 miles away in Livermore, California, when an officer stopped to assist the driver of a disabled vehicle, and the man sped off. The lack of an agreement on weapons inspectors could strengthen the hand of those inside the Bush administration who want a U.S. attack on Iraq. In a front-page article, the New York Times today reported the Pentagon is considering an invasion force of up to 250,000 troops. Jamie McIntyre has more.
CNN reported in April that Pentagon planners envisioned a force about half the size deployed in the 1991 Persian Gulf War if the U.S. went back to Iraq to topple Saddam Hussein. That number is confirmed by a 2-month-old series of briefing slides shown but not given to the New York Times.
What has been leaked is some sort or some version of a courses of action briefing, apparently at least one concept in there calling for about 250,000 American ground troops to do the job.
The Bush administration has made no secret of its goal of regime change in Iraq and its willingness to employ military force. But White House officials and Pentagon sources tell CNN the president has made no decision and has no final war plan currently under review. General Tommy Franks, the Persian Gulf commander, has briefed the president on a general concept of operations, a sign that war planning is well underway.
This probably indicates that since there's been a couple of concept meetings that the president has generally blessed the concept for development of further planning.
The briefing slides cited by the Times outline a 3-pronged ground invasion against Baghdad with special operations troops or CIA forces hitting suspected chemical or biological weapons labs. Pentagon officials say that's just one concept, not the plan. The Times says its source was an official who is frustrated that the Iraq war planning is insufficiently creative. Just so happens Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld has shared that criticism in the past, rejecting more than one plan as unimaginative. Jamie McIntyre, CNN, The Pentagon.
Iraq says it has made a scientific breakthrough that would lead to stronger defenses against outside threats. Iraqi media are reporting that Hussein has reviewed plans to strengthen Iraq's defenses with his top military commanders. The stepson of Saddam Hussein is still in the U.S. awaiting deportation to New Zealand. Mohammed Safi is a New Zealand citizen who works for the national airline. He came to the U.S. for a pilot recertification, but was here on a tourist visa rather than a student one. A spokeswoman for the New Zealand Foreign Ministry says Safi has no known terrorist connections and realizes he made a mistake in applying for a visa to travel to the U.S. Safi is the eldest son of Saddam's second wife. He left Iraq after the Gulf War and has lived in New Zealand for 6 years. A bomb ripped through a market in Algeria today, killing at least 30 people. The powerful blast left a 5-foot-wide crater. No group has claimed responsibility for the bombing, but security forces say the attack is similar to those carried out in the past by Islamic rebels. Many residents say the nation's security forces should have been able to prevent the attack. Today's strike came as Algeria celebrated its 40th anniversary of independence from France. When our Channel 2 News continues, Wall Street reports big gains to end the week. The 1-month anniversary of Elizabeth Smart's kidnapping passes with no sign of the teenager. Much of the U.S. braces for an extended drought. And a combination of glass and plants is a big hit in Chicago.
This portion of the Channel 2 News is brought to you by TIG Insurance, TIG Crum & Forster, Kama Aina Insurance Professionals.
I come here often. You know why? They're well established, the service is always terrific, I like what they offer, and they seem to always know what I need. That's how we work at TIG Crum & Forster. We've been here continuously since 1948. We're especially proud of the service provided by the 19 wonderful independent agents who represent us, and we're Kama Aina Insurance Professionals. That's a pretty good combination of ingredients. Try it. You'll like it.
Life doesn't have to be so difficult. AutoSource, 5.0 custom cycles and Hot Wheels Hawaii. 30 minutes. Simple.
All ages. All walks of life. All coming together to form a community. You're a part of this community, and so are we. HMSA, health programs that fit every need. This has been our plan for over 60 years. To take care of your mind, your body, your spirit, your health.
Did you know that picking a pediatric dentist is just as important as picking a pediatrician? Pediatric dentists have at least 2 years of additional training to specialize in childhood development and can help anticipate and treat problems before they arise. In some cases, early care from a pediatric dentist can impact the need for orthodontics. The Hawaii Academy of Pediatric Dentistry. We keep your children smiling.
This portion of the Channel 2 News is brought to you by Off 5th, Saks Fifth Avenue Outlet, located at the Waikele Premium Outlets.
Wall Street wrapped up the holiday-shortened week with a powerful rally today that sent the major stock market averages soaring. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 325 points to close at 9,379. It was the biggest one-day point gain for the Dow since late September. For the week, the Dow rose 136 points. The NASDAQ Composite rose 68 points today to 1,448. That's down about 15 points for the week. It's been exactly 1 month since 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart was kidnapped from her Utah home. The search continues, and this 4th of July weekend, her family said they will continue to look in local canyons for any sign of their daughter. Alicia Acuna has the latest from Salt Lake City.
About 30 days now.
Elizabeth Smart's father, Edward, 1 month to the day his daughter was taken from her bedroom at gunpoint, making a plea like he does almost every day for the return of his daughter and acknowledging he never thought it would go this far.
I know everyone gets bored with me coming out and generally saying the same thing, but, you know, we still know that she's out there and that she's going to be coming home.
The investigation and the search continues. This weekend, more volunteers heading out to the canyons and hills to look for something, anything that might help. The family also asking people around the country to take 15 minutes of their time to perform a mini search of their area.
Pay special attention to cabins in searching deserted cabins, shacks, also keeping an eye and looking at basements.
Investigators continue to focus on the Smart's former handyman, Richard Reese, and his associates. However, at this time, he is not considered a suspect. Fox News has learned that the district attorney's office here is considering filing charges against Richard Reese for the April 2001 burglary of the Smart's home, a burglary that law enforcement sources say Reese has already admitted to. In Salt Lake City, Alicia Acuna, Fox News.
Still to come on our Channel 2 News, there is no end in sight to a massive drought across the nation, and a unique garden that's a blend of glass and greenery.
There's a place for parents who know that peace and quiet is sometimes overrated. Chuck E. Cheese's, where a kid can be a kid and a parent can be a parent.
You know, getting things just right doesn't just happen.
You've got to put your heart and soul into making it happen.
Like having a healthy baby. You want to get medical care early in your pregnancy.
So you can monitor your baby's development and be alert to problems.
The Mother's Care phone line can help you find medical care close to home.
And when you call, you'll get a booklet with pregnancy health tips and coupons.
You've got the power to make something wonderful happen. Call Mother's Care.
Hey yo, this message is to let all my peeps know what they should be doing with tobacco products. What's that? Just leave them where they at. Before you pull them out the pack, man, leave them where they at. And if your friends think you're whacked out, leave them where they at. When your body starts to hurting and you don't know what's the answer, and knowing that you're dying by sticks of lung cancer, leave them where they at. Non-smokers are the cool ones. choice of why you're puffing and you're cruising. Think about the money and the health that you've been losing. When you think about buying, leave them where they at. Little kids who want to try them, leave them where they at. 300 million people dying, leave them where they at. Tobacco company always lying, leave them where they at. These multi-million-dollar businesses are ran by great suit idiots and focus advertisement on everybody's kids. Don't listen, use your mind, you're in charge of yourself. Brought to you by Hawaii State Department of Health. Yo, you think they got the message? I don't know. So let's tell them again. Before your breath starts to stink, leave them where they at. Before you buy them, you should think, leave them where.
Tonight at 6. Kailua residents are wondering what happened to their fireworks last night. We'll look for answers. And John Veneri satisfies his need for speed on the go-kart track. On the Channel 2 News at 6.
Residents in Chile are enjoying a rare treat in the desert: snow. An unusual mix of snow and rain has been falling in the region since Monday. The precipitation caused the temporary closure of several of the major copper mines. Many crops in the desert were destroyed. Meteorologists say the storms dropped about 10 times more precipitation than usual in some locations in Chile. Across China, residents are dealing with the after effects of a disastrous typhoon. The severe weather killed 5 people and destroyed many crops. Officials say winds up to 90 miles an hour flattened a village where migrant workers lived. Trees have been uprooted, knocking down electric poles and blocking roads. At Shanghai's airport, nearly 200 flights have been canceled since yesterday. And 7 deaths are now being blamed on massive flooding in Texas. Miles of highway are underwater as floods continue to sweep through the San Antonio area, which has been declared a federal disaster. Meantime, thousands of people are left homeless, waiting for the water to recede. At least one home was picked up by the raging water and sent traveling down the highway. Despite that flooding, much of the U.S. is experiencing a nationwide drought. The hardest hit areas are the South and the West, as evidenced by the recent wave of wildfires. Trini Kalpawiki has more now on the dry conditions and how long they might last. Trini?
In Los Angeles, the city's driest 12-month period on record. Along the shrinking Rio Grande River in Texas, the worst possible drought rating. And in Colorado, Arizona, and at least 7 other western states, dry conditions fueling fast-moving wildfires. Hundreds of homes reduced to ash.
Maybe twice or a little bit more than twice the normal amount of the U.S. is in drought.
The dry conditions began in 1998 when the waters of the Pacific Ocean began to cool, a phenomenon called La Niña. That cooling triggered a number of climate changes, including drought conditions in the west and south. Making matters worse, La Niña was preceded by a severe El Niño, which brought above-average rainfall.
Vegetation took a surge during the El Niño. They had really greened up in the west.
That same vegetation has been drying for the last 3 years and is now the perfect fuel for wildfires. But El Niño and La Niña may not be solely to blame. Some experts believe there are other more complex weather forces at work, that we may be in for a prolonged drought.
Perhaps for the next 5 to 10 years, we're in a deficit rainfall situation across the southern tier of the United States, much like we saw in the 1950s, the 1960s, and the 1970s.
Meteorologists say even weeks of rainy weather may not put a dent in it. For the Channel 2 News at 5:30, I'm Trini Kaopawiki.
Thanks, Trini. We'll see you again at 6. A glass garden is taking center stage at a Chicago park. That story when our Channel 2 News continues.
Paradise.
available across the islands.
Before my mother lost her memory, she made her wishes known in writing, and that was a gift to me. I think we would release so much anxiety, so much guilt, so much turmoil in families if we could have this document here and say, these are my wishes, because we just don't know whether we are capable of making those decisions ourselves later.
I need insurance. Who can I talk to?
What's the difference between whole life and term insurance? Should I get both?
Do I need long-term care insurance?
I need an employee benefits package. Where can a small business owner turn to?
I just need to know my family and business will be cared for, no matter what happens.
If you're thinking about any of these things or just thinking about tomorrow, Royal State Group has someone you can talk to and ways to help you. Royal State Group, here in Hawaii, here for you.
One of the most famous glass artists in the world is an American, Dale Chihuly of Seattle. Lately, his work is getting a great deal of attention, not in Washington State, but in Chicago. As Keith Oppenheim shows us, Chihuly has created a garden of delights, which is helping a neighborhood make a comeback.
Perfect. I'm standing by. I could make some alterations if I wanted to. I don't need to. It's a beautiful piece.
For years, art lovers have known the genius of Dale Chihuly, who can turn glass into fantastic shapes and colors. Now his work has found a new venue, a giant indoor garden.
A lot of it blends in so well, it just looks like it grew there.
This is Garfield Park Conservatory in Chicago, 1.8 acres of greenhouse that's been transformed by Chihuly's work.
It took me about 2 weeks after the installation was complete to find everything that was in here. And I'm here every single day.
It is a marriage of glass and greenery, a display that began with low expectations, but ultimately created a huge buzz.
I hope that it, gets people that are interested in gardens and greenhouses to get them interested in art, and vice versa.
The exhibits had an impact beyond the conservatory. Garfield Park has gone through decades of neglect, and since the riots that took place in the 1960s, Garfield Park has often been perceived as a place to be avoided. But the Chihuly exhibit has brought in crowds. More than 400,000 since it opened last November, already more than twice the number the conservatory got for all of last year.
People from the suburbs are in here now, people that I would never, ever have thought.
The show, by the way, is temporary. But the hope is a few pieces will remain, and perhaps, too, a sense of hope for the neighborhood that made such a unique home for this art. In Chicago, I'm Keith Oppenheim reporting.
And that is our 5:30 report for this Aloha Friday. In news of Hawaii, police are looking for a suspect who set 3 boats on fire at the Waikiki Yacht Club today. That story and all the news of the islands coming up next on our Channel 2 News at 6.
Dean and Tiari are part of a large family. They live and work together, and they play together. For generations, HMSA has been a part of their lives, providing health coverage that meets their individual needs in every way, right from the start. This is their plan, to take care of their mind, their body, their spirit, their health.
Finance Factors knows about home loans. We'd better know. We've been in business for 50 years now, and we're celebrating the Big 5-0 with incredible low rates on home loans and refinancing. Low rates, local service at Finance Factors, Hawaii's choice for home loans.
Imagine a world without borders, where lines no longer divide countries or peoples or cultures, where the only law is to respect one another. Where does this world exist? Inside our walls. The Honolulu Academy of Arts. Join us for Ansel Adams in Hawaii and the 2002 Artists of Hawaii Juried Exhibition, now through August 4th.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Hawaiian Airlines, your wings of the islands, offering convenient daily flights to the West Coast and Las Vegas.
Broadcasting from the KHON TV Broadcast Center in Hawaii Tower, this is Fox 2, Hawaii's news channel.
This is the Channel 2 News at 6 with Joe Moore, Hawaii's #1 news.